Welcome aboard the safest airline in Africa. With industry-leading safety measures to protect your well-being. The first in Africa to earn a diamond standard of safety. Offering a more contactless, safe and seamless experience. Delivered with a smile by Africa's first fully vaccinated crew. Creating special memories that bring the joy back to flying, so you can continue making memories with your loved ones. Book your flight with Rwandair today. Rwandair, the safest airline in Africa.
Rwandair, fly the dream of Africa.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to hear from an executive summary of research findings on the topic Religious Beliefs and Entrepreneurial Behaviors in Africa, a case study of the informal sector in Uganda. And that presentation is going to be made by Dr. Fiona Mulira. Dr. Fiona is a senior lecturer in the Department of Human Resource Management at Makerere University Business School, MUBS, in Uganda. She researches and consults in the areas of human resource management, entrepreneurship, education, and sustainable development among marginalized and vulnerable groups. The PWD's women, youth, and former child soldiers. She has written many journals, reports, and conference publications. She is a fellow of both the Global Challenges Research Fund and South African PhD Partnership Network for Inclusive Growth through Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship. She also serves as a location pastor with the Worship Harvest Ministries, a movement of the gospel discipleship and mission that exists for the purpose of catalyzing spiritual, social, and economic renewal in our immediate communities, and as a result, the whole world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and welcome Doctor. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. I would want to thank Dr. Emmanuel Deitumi, who's put us together, who's invited different religious leaders, different business people, people involved in corporate organizations and enterprises. This indeed is a first. And today, my role is going to be very easy and very simple, and that's for me to present our research findings, an executive summary. A couple of years back, I did my PhD, and I did my PhD in South Africa. My PhD was on women with disabilities that are doing business. Together with two other friends that were also doing their PhDs in South Africa, one was doing a PhD on entrepreneurial bricolage, which is basically how you make do with the resources that you have available in order to start a business, manage a business, maintain or even grow a business. And then we also had another colleague who looked at effectuation, which looks at the process of starting new businesses. Now, of course, as PhD students would meet and share ideas. And as we shared our findings of interviews that we had done with different business owners, we discovered that many of them were talking about faith, religion, belief, Jesus, Muhammad, and we thought that, well, this is something interesting. So that's the history of how this particular research and paper came up. And so I'm going to be presenting a summary of it, which is religious beliefs and entrepreneurial behaviors in Africa. Our case study is the informal sector in Uganda, as most of the businesses that we're looking at were in the informal sector. So just to go to the motivation, I've already given you a background. Our motivation as far as this business this particular research was concerned, beyond our PhDs, was we discovered that in several resource-constrained environments, you find that entrepreneurs normally have to make decisions with incomplete information. There's not enough data as far as how they can start a business, how they can grow their business, how they can manage their business. And of course, for many, they'll either have to rely on past experience of try and error, or they'll have to network with people that have done business before. And at the same time, we found that quite often, even though religious beliefs are considered to be values, to have values and practices that help as far as processes are concerned, many times when it comes to research, this is an area that is quite ignored as far as business. The two are normally separated. We found that religion is investigated on its own and businesses are investigated on their own, and the two rarely merge. So having found this out, we then decided to study religious beliefs and their role. How do they shape the behavior of business people, of entrepreneurs? That having been said, we then looked at Uganda. When we look at Uganda in terms of spirituality and faith of the Ugandans, we found that initially, traditionally, most of the Ugandans were believers in things like water, mountains, traditional healers, among others. But then in 1844, we have the first movement of religious people coming in, and these were the Muslims. When the Muslims came in, they actually came in with intentions of trading. But as they traded, they also converted a few of the people within the Ugandan environment. Shortly after, we then had some other religions, and these were the Christians who then came in later on. And for the Christians, they came in with religion. That was their intention. But in the process of coming in with religion, they also, in turn, encouraged trade. And this was mainly in terms of cash crops, cotton, coffee growing. And since then, we find that today, Uganda has predominantly a Christian society, up to 84% are Christian, and we have some Pentecostals that are rising, about 11%, as well as other religions. Now, as far as practicing of entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurship practices that we currently have, we find that many times as Christians, as Muslims, when you look at businesses, they'll tend to hire either their relatives in their businesses, that is how they actually manage the businesses, or sometimes beyond hiring their relatives, they'll come up with visions and missions that speak to their belief systems. Sometimes they'll come up with logos as far as their belief systems are concerned, among others. Moving forward, I then moved to what were some of our major findings as far as when we conducted these interviews. We conducted interviews with 49 business owners. These were women in the informal sector. These were people with disabilities. These were also men, all operating within the informal sector. And we found that there were three main things as far as religion and enterprise was concerned. The first one being that for many of these business owners, how they frame their context of business is based on religion. So, for instance, majority of them make sense of their business in terms of religion is the tool that explains any disadvantage that they might have. Right now, I'll give you an example of statements. So, For instance, religion many times helps to explain why there are certain disadvantages, either to the individuals or to the business itself. For instance, when a business fails to work, we had an example of a disabled entrepreneur who felt that the reason she wasn't successful in business is because she was disabled, and it is God who made her that way. And because God made her that way, that meant that when it comes to business, it's a detriment. On the flip side, however, we also had those whose perception was that their beliefs is what has enabled them to be successful. One Roman Catholic said that the Holy Spirit is the one that has enabled them to be successful, because they get inspiration, they get ideas on what to do in their business and how to grow their business. While others believe that their religion is the source of provision as far as their businesses are concerned, whether this is in the form of customers, because they're able to reach out to fellow Christians, fellow Muslims, and these are a constant supply of customers, buyers, suppliers, among other things. The second thing that we found is that when it comes to religion and businesses, for quite a number, it defines the business practice. So you find that the manner in which entrepreneurs do their business many times is triggered by their faith. For some, it might start with idea generation. I was sleeping, I had a dream that I was selling these bags. Or I had an idea and I was able to come up with this machinery. I was able to find the right person to partner with in business. So for some, it's that inspiration that they get, that it's triggered by faith as far as idea generation, right from the start of the business. While for others, they look at it in terms of how they are going to implement the business and how they are going to survive through the business. I'll give you a very quick example. There's a lady that we interviewed, and she was born deaf and dumb. However, she owned a small retail store right next to the church. And in this retail store, she was able to sell different kinds of produce. And she said that at the start, there were challenges in terms of communicating with the hearing world and having access. Later on, because she had the church right next to her, and the church was invested in trying to make sure that she's successful, they were empathetic towards her, they then got her quite a number of customers. So for her, she could not leave that church because she believes that her success and her business can only thrive within that particular environment. These are the people who understood and were able to avail customers, even though she still found it hard to communicate with them. So beliefs typically determine the particular business that you're going to engage in. Beliefs also determine the norms and the customs that you're going to use, whether these are things like credit policies. You find that many times, as long as people are of a similar faith, or they believe that someone is of a particular faith, they can be trusted. I can give them that loan. I can give them those goods on credit, and I can count on their word to pay for those goods. It also looks at the choice of customers, the markets that you're going to interact with, and the attitude when it comes to business success. The third thing that we found as we interrogated these people that were doing business was that many times religion helps to stimulate individuals' identity, their business identity. For quite a number of them, enterprise owners came up with different practices that were based on their beliefs. How they saved was based on their beliefs. how much they gave, for example, with the Christians, how they managed their books of accounts were based on their beliefs. The belief that for my business, I need to give a tenth, which is a tithe, back to God, to the church. I need to be able to save some amounts. I need to be able to invest. And these were based on those institutions or those religious environments that encourage and train and teach these people. So we found that major decisions that they would make, a decision to expand, a decision to partner with others, many times was based on a religious belief or religious understanding. Innovative ideas were based on religious beliefs. So there were quite a number of testimonies in terms of things like, my faith gives me confidence and boldness to market my products and goods. Because I know that I have the backing of God, I know that I am going to be successful in whatever business I'm in. On the flip side, however, I need to mention that for some, their religious beliefs were actually a detriment to their success in the business. For instance, there were some that mentioned that because of my faith, I cannot work on such and such a day. The seventh days, for example, do not work on Saturday. And for most business people, they are going to engage, most of their trade activities are going to happen on a Saturday. So in certain situations, faith was a detriment to their business success because they would have to lose out on many contracts, many customers. If anyone is going to go to a market, because we are looking at the informal sector, majority of us are going to go to the market on Saturday and shop on Saturday. So if I have my business and I'm a seventh day and I can't operate it on Saturday, then I have a challenge, especially if I cannot afford to employ someone to work in my place. Still, many of these beliefs were fueled by a drive for perseverance in business. There are those, because we're looking at the informal sector, and the informal sector is marked with a lot of uncertainty. The most recent uncertainty is the increase in fuel prices. That has affected everything, something that was probably not predicted before. And so because of these uncertainties, many that continue to persevere in business in spite of the challenges that they face, in spite of hiking in prices for products, in spite of having fewer customers, is their belief, is their faith. So faith, belief in whatever it might be, for many, the belief in God provided them with a sustained action in the face of hardships. Having said that, or having discovered that, we then found that religion in itself plays a very critical role in giving an entrepreneur a sense, in as far as a sense of ownership, a sense of confidence, in as far as the informal business context is concerned. So the two can actually not be separated from one another. Religion tends to serve as a coping mechanism, especially when dealing with difficult personal issues. And when we think about business in Uganda, especially in the informal sector, you cannot separate the individual from the business. The two tend to be one and the same. So religion plays a very important role in providing those coping mechanisms in terms of counsel, in terms of hope that things will get better tomorrow. And we found that also beliefs play a role in providing resources. For many, some of the previous speakers have talked about circles. For many that are members of a particular faith, they'll be able to borrow or get money from the circles in order to start up their businesses. They're able to access markets from their fellow believers, and even then, they're able to persevere in their businesses. Now, for some, we found that they used their businesses to promote religion, which was initially quite surprising for us, because the assumption going in as we were interviewing was religion is the one that's there to support the businesses and to dictate how people are going to behave in their businesses. But for some, their businesses were an avenue for spreading their belief system, whether it's spreading their gospel, spreading their faith. We found some of them selling rosaries, selling reading materials, Christian reading materials. And the intention of starting the business was not necessarily to make money, but rather to spread their faith. So in such context, we found that religious values were very deep-seated beliefs. Values of integrity, values of love, values of consideration of a fellow human being, compassion, generosity. Those were values that we found marked or explained the kind of businesses that they were in. Finally, in conclusion, we found that in an era where there's infrastructural and institutional breakdown, beliefs tend to support ingenuity. Basically, religion, faith, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Islam, a belief in a higher being. For the Christians, belief in Jesus Christ, it helps to fill in this gap, where there are institutional gaps in terms of financing. You find that churches can come in and support. Where there are infrastructural or systemic gaps in terms of training, you find that still religious organizations, the ministries, the churches, should be, as the previous speaker has said, should be not only ministering to the soul, but they should be ministering to the body and ensuring that if you're going to have flock come in, they should be healthy, whole, and well-equipped for growth. And entrepreneurial beliefs support learning and development of competencies. So we found that for many, because of their beliefs and because of relying on the Bible, which is a very clear guide on how you can invest, how you can be a businessman, how you can deal with business people, because it talks about generosity, it talks about saving, it talks about investing. So there's seed time and harvest time. All these are within the religious framework and can actually be used in expanding and growing and supporting the businesses in Uganda. Thank you very much.
I first met UMB when I was at the crossroads of my business. I had a serious problem, and UMB has made it possible for me to still stand today. How did they do this? They did not work and put me in a box. They looked at me as an individual and got a product from me which helped me to survive the period. Banks should look at it and see how they can also go that way to be able to meet individual customers, tailor products to suit the individual customers, and not to just box everybody together.
So we pick travelers. Our typical customers are people flying in and out of the country. So we pick those from the airport to wherever they are going and back. And we do this through a network of driver partners for whom we give regular business and improve livelihoods. They can book through WhatsApp, they can call us, they can email us. We just try to make it as simple and convenient, as seamless as possible for our customers.